So in today's session, I will be providing a walkthrough on the extending the Sitecore Analytics reporting with the help of xDB. So in this session, you will got to know that what are the limitations of the existing Sitecore Analytics reporting system, and to provide the insight to our business user and the product owner how well our website is performing and the content is performing. So in those cases, whatever the existing functionality provided by the xConnect and the xDB, and how we can get the data out of that, and we can build the reports which is useful for the end user. So in the today's agenda, I will be just providing an introduction of the session and also the overview of the Sitecore xDB and the xConnect. Then I will be moving to the data storage or the data schema of the xDB, how the data is being stored with respect to context. And then I will be giving you the providing the ways to access the xConnect data via xConnect API and the xDB. And in fifth section, I will be providing a overview of the integration, which I just done as a part of the POC, where we have leveraged the Power BI as a reporting tool and created a full-fledged reporting for the with the help of xDB data. And you can feel free to stop me if you have any questions in between also. So myself Amit, right? So I am having around a 17 plus years of experience and currently working with the Assurance as a IT solution architect. So my background is that I'm having a mostly worked on the Microsoft stack. So from classic ASP to till Sitecore CMS. So I have worked on the SharePoint, Salesforce, and all technologies as per the client or the project needs. Coming to the introduction of this today's session. So this session will provide you the overview so that how the xDB and how extensively you can utilize the Sitecore xConnect to implement the tracking of, or you can say that the web tracking of your website user, and you can collect all the touch points wherever user are going or checking your data, and you can build a reports out of that. So if you are using the Sitecore as a experience platform, so you do not need to rely on the Google Analytics, right? Because whatever you are able to do with the Google Analytics, so all those things you can do with the Sitecore xConnect. So, but with the help of a Sitecore xConnect, you need to perform some sort of more custom implementation as compared to Google Analytics. But it's better to rely on the one analytics system so that you can get the full flexibility and the full power of your Sitecore CMS. So coming to the overview of Sitecore xDB and xConnect. So I assume that all of you know that from the before the Sitecore 9 version, we were having the MongoDB as a non-relational database, which generally used to capture the uh, Sitecore experience data and into the xDB. So xDB was in the form of a MongoDB. So all the data in the MongoDB was stored in the non-relational. It's just you can say that the representation, you can add any node into any data in a non-relational database. And from the Sitecore 9 onwards, we are having you can say that the microservices based architecture where the xConnect are the endpoints which are generally interacting with the xDB to get or set the data. And xConnect is also having two sorts of API endpoints like a xConnect collection and the xConnect collection search. So xConnect basically is being used to access the or interacting with the CD server, and the xConnect collection search is interacting with the CMS, because in the CMS also you are having the experience profile, or you are accessing any marketing automation things. So in those cases, xConnect collection search endpoints will be directly interacting with the xDB. So under the xConnect, as I said, that you are having the collection services, search indexer is for the indexing, and the collection database. So xConnect is basically responsible for all type of tracking which you are doing into the Sitecore. And if you want to collect any data with respect to the personalization, you need to use the xConnect endpoints. And Sitecore is providing a two types of xConnect API or the functionality which you can use. One is the you can utilize within a Sitecore context, and other is that a non-Sitecore context where it is providing you the OData API endpoints which you can utilize in the non-Sitecore context also. And there is no other system which is directly connecting to the xDB. Only the xConnect is the system which can connect. You can say that the mediator between your front end and the xDB is the xConnect, which is generally you connecting, or you can say that the getting or setting the data in the xDB. And this is the high level flow in the left hand side. If you are able to see that we are having the external system or a consumer who are accessing the xConnect client API, and in your right hand side you are having the other supporting system or a downstream system from the Sitecore, which is helping to process the data or aggregate the data in a format so that you can get a user understandable format data in the form of a reporting in the Sitecore CMS. Like if you are opening a Sitecore CMS and you are accessing a Sitecore experience analytics reporting feature, so you will be able to see the report. What happened that when the user or you are pushing any analytics related data, it will be pushed via a xConnect client API. Then it will be aggregated in the orchestration format to the reporting, and reporting data will be, you can say that the subset of the whatever the data you have stored in the xDB. So with that way, Sitecore is bringing up the report at the user end. And this is another view of what are the services you can utilize from the xConnect. Like as I said earlier, that content management totally rely on the xConnect collection search services, and content delivery is the xConnect collection services, and other services directly can use the xConnect client API. So when you are doing a integration, I say that if you are doing the Docker or container based implementation, right? So in those cases, you do not need to pass the thumbprint of your xConnect API because you are in the same cluster or a same network. But if you are doing the IaaS based implementation or a PaaS based implementation, and if you need to access the xConnect API, you need to pass the thumbprint of a xConnect API into your connection string, because the connection or a connectivity between a xConnect client API or any requester is happening with the help of a thumbprint. Because if as a CD or the CM, if you are making a call to the xConnect, you are passing the thumbprint. So with the help of that thumbprint, xConnect is authenticating you are the correct requester or not. If you are not, then you will be getting a 500 error while consuming the xConnect API. But in the Docker implementation, you do not need to pass any of the thumbprint, and also you do not need to expose any sort of a, you can say that a named host, right? Like it xconnect.abc.com, those type of wildcard certificate, or you can say that the host names are not required when you are doing the Dockerized approach, because there you do not, you are having the predefined internal network like xDB collection and the CD and the CM. So you do not need to do that while they are communicating internally. Now coming to the next section where I will be explaining about a data schema of the xDB. So if you are able to see that in the right hand side, you are able to see the uh, xDB collection database. So by default, Sitecore experience is using the two shards. One is the shard 0 and the one is the shard 1. These are the database concept, and it is generally used to improve the performance. So they will be having the same set of, you can say that the data tables within that, but the data will be segregated. Like some records will be pushing dynamically into shard 0 and some will be into the shard 1 itself. But while you are making a call from your front end with the namespaces of the xConnect, so the responses from both the databases are collected and it will be sent back to you. So you do not need to explicitly do anything. Sitecore will internally take care of all those things. So here the main entity is the xDB contact. So whenever you are making a call to Sitecore Experience website, and if you are not logged in, or if suppose you are not having the login type of functionality, so you will be always traversing the website as an unknown user or an anonymous user, and your IP address will be used as a uniquely identify you. So suppose some website, what they are doing it, they are having the subscription type of things in the website. So once you will provide your first name, last name, and the email ID, and your email address will be used as an identifier to identify you, and whatever the previous or the past history was there as an anonymous user, Sitecore will replace that with the known user. So then you will be becoming a known user. And all the details will be stored in the context table with respect to any anonymous or the known user. And suppose if you are storing the first name and last name, or if you are having the job title or anything, right? Those are nothing but a facets. Those facets are being stored in the contact facets table in the form of a JSON. And there is a one more important table is called a interaction. So if you are doing any sort of interaction with the Sitecore Experience website, like if you are clicking any page, or if you are um, firing any page event, or if you are searching and I have, or the website having the tracking into that, all the interaction with respect to a user will be stored in the interaction table. So these are the important table, and the device profile is nothing but a table which will store what is the device type, like a mobile or a tablet, or you can say that the laptop. So those things and the operating system related details will be stored in the device profile. And coming to this is the core collection model. So when you are trying to use the xConnect namespaces, or you will try to access the or searching the contact from the Sitecore with the help of a xConnect namespaces or a function like a searching anything, right? So Sitecore is providing this contact entity, and you can search the contact with the help of a ID or a last modified. So once you will get all the data, then if you are having any sort of interaction like a campaign ID, channel ID, so you can use the link queue and you can make a where clause and you can get the data out of that itself. So with the help of this core collection model, Sitecore is collecting the data and giving back to the end user while you are performing any action. So for example, if you are doing the subscription into your website, then you will be using the add contact, then you will be setting the facets, right? And if you will try to get a user as a known user, suppose if user is you are having some sort of a login screen, so in those cases you will be providing a user ID and the password, right? So user ID and password, you will authenticate user with your IAM system like your Okta or any Azure AD or Azure B2C. But to get all the data like a PI data or any personal facets, right? So you will be making a passing user email address into the uh, Sitecore xConnect API, and you will be identifying as is a function. With the help of that, you can get the contact ID, and later you can get all the facets, whatever you wanted to get it. So in those scenario, you can put a where clause into that also. And with the help of this model, if you are seeing here, like contact ID means entity is the main entity, and along with that you are having the many relation with the other facet like email address facets, personal information, address list. So all these is being used to push the data while you are creating a known contact into the Sitecore, and while you are creating the reporting system, or if you will go to the experience profile and you are selecting any of the contact, all these facets are being used to store the data, and when Sitecore is showing at a CMS side, then it will use all this data and it will be bring up to you. So you can also make a query to all of these facets like a classification or a consent information. So Sitecore 10 onwards, this consent information is a very useful facets. It will provide you the functionality to implement a cookie consent into your website. So all the cookie related consent information will be stored in these facets by default from the Sitecore. Any question till this point?
I think pretty good, Amit. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Very good so far.
Yeah. So this is the one of the snapshot of the contact facet. So as I was telling that all the facets which you are creating or a custom facet or the out of the box facet, they are having the facets key, and all the facets data is being stored in the form of a JSON data. But prior to Sitecore 9, all this data was present in the form of a non-relational database. So there the main entity was generally was showing you as a contact ID. And this O data or the JSON data which you are seeing it, right? Those are being stored in the form of a child data. There was no JSON representation was there. So Sitecore have converted that non-relational database into a JSON so that you can add any sort of data into your facet, and JSON is tightly coupled with the model which you are finding here, like a Sitecore xConnect.collection.models, right? So those are the models which you are having out of the box, and if you are creating yours, so all the data will be tightly coupled with that model itself, and you need to make a call to these facets while fetching the data back from the Sitecore, and Sitecore will directly map all the entity attribute directly into that. You do not need to do any manipulation with respect to JSON. So I try to access the data from the JSON. So in this case, if you are seeing, I try to get the data from the personal information and the preferred email, and you can easily get the data out of the that by making a clause on the facet key. And these are the some sample queries which you can utilize to get data out of that. So the same way when you are accessing from the Sitecore xConnect API, if you are having the facets and after getting the contact, and if you try to get a get facet is a named key, you need to pass and you can easily get a data out of the Sitecore. And I was explaining about the interaction table. So this is the JSON representation of the interaction column. So in this, what happened that this is also containing the start date, date and time, and also the goals, outcomes, and the page event item IDs. So the meaning of this is that and how it is being utilized. Suppose if you are coming to a website and you are registering it, and I have put a condition or a written a code to fire a goal of the registration, then that entry will be inserted into this, and this is a goal array. So all of the goal IDs will be present in this. So while if you will go to the Sitecore experience profile and you will access any of the users, right? So there is a activity screen by default will be coming. In that activity screen, you will found that uh, it will having the online campaign related entry will be there. If you will click on that, it will give you all the activities performed by the user. So all that data which you are seeing in the experience profile is basically being fetched from this interaction table. And the same way you can do manipulation on your XDB data, and you can directly also get all those data. And in this section, I will be explaining the ways to access the Sitecore xConnect data so that you can push that data to the third-party system, and how you wanted to utilize, it's up to your requirement. So what are the types or the ways you can use, and what are the API endpoints, or you can say that the pipelines are present. So I will be explaining in that. So our main purpose is to that we will able to create an extensive reporting system. To create an extensive reporting system, the main need is the data source. So the data source for us is the Sitecore experience database. And the Sitecore Experience database we can access via xConnect namespaces APIs, or we can directly access the xDB database. So as I said earlier, that Sitecore is providing a xConnect namespaces in the Sitecore context, and also it is providing a xConnect client API, which you can, those are the OData endpoints, and you can utilize in a non-Sitecore context also. But that is also with the help of a, if you are using the .NET code or the .NET core code is there, then you can utilize the Sitecore xConnect client binaries, and there you need to pass the your xConnect client API endpoints. And if you are using the JavaScript or any jQuery framework or the client-side scripting, there you need to use the OData API, and you need to pass the keys and the other, and you will be able to access it. And the third way is that you will directly accessing the xDB. So by considering all these three options, I have come up with the possible approaches, like 6 approaches which can be utilized. Maybe there will be more approaches, but from my understanding, we can utilize the xConnect and the xDB to get a data with the help of these. So one option, the first option is that if I will create a batch job or a Sitecore scheduler in the Sitecore context, and those needs to be deployed on the CD server. And if I will use the xConnect client API, then I can make a use of the, you can say that the xConnect search API, and I can get all of the data with respect to all the contact from my system, and I can push that to my any source, right? But in these cases, if you are having a lot of load on the CD, then you need to separate it out. But in those cases, you will be not able to use the Sitecore xConnect namespaces in a Sitecore context, right? So whenever you are having the less load, in those cases you can use, or you can run your utilities in the off business hour, so that at any given point of time you will be not putting a load on the business hour. And other approach is that you will be using a xConnect client API or data endpoints, and you can utilize the Azure Data Factory, right? Azure Data Factory is providing you the O database connector where you can do all the data orchestration, right? And you can get all the data, and you can push that into any database or any source, whatever you wanted to do via Azure functions. That is a second way. Other is that you can directly add a OData endpoints to a Power BI. But in those cases, Power BI is not expecting or giving the opportunity you to pass the user ID and the password or something. You need to remove the authentication from the client API. So it will open up the security breaches. So then you need to think about a IP restriction or the virtual VLAN, right? With the help of that, you can make a connectivity between the Power BI endpoint, because Power BI is also a Office 365 base. And if you are deploying Sitecore into Azure or a local data center, then you can use the virtual LAN and point-to-point connectivity with the your Office 365 instance, and you can implement a security. And fourth option is that Sitecore is providing a Sitecore xConnect service plugin. So, this service plugin will, what it will do, suppose if you are performing a add contact or a update contact, or you are setting the facet or updating the facet. So first what it will do, it will store the data, and then it will fire a event which you can catch and perform any action. So this is some sort of a API which is also present in the Sitecore, and you can utilize that to push a data in a real time also into any of the data sources. And fifth option is that if you will directly access the Sitecore X database, and you can run that into any non-Sitecore server or anywhere, right? But you should have the connectivity with the database, and you can grab all the data from the xDB, and you can replicate into any database after the orchestration, and then you can sync with Power BI to build up the report. Or you can also directly make a connectivity with the xDB with the Power BI, because Power BI is providing you a data set where you can replicate all the data. And sixth option is that you can utilize the xConnect database, or you can utilize the xConnect API and you can push the event to the message queue system. Suppose if you are having the enterprise organization and they are working on a more than one business, like they are into the hospitality and they are into the e-commerce, or they are having the grocery stores, right? Offline and online, both presence they are having. So those organizations generally are running a club membership type of thing, right? So where you will be having a unique identification and all of your data is being pushed to the centralized data lake, right? So in those cases, each of the system is not maintaining the data with respect to user, and generally it is being pushed to the centralized location so that they can create the customer 360-degree view or something like that. And people are utilizing the Hadoop and they are utilizing the Salesforce CRM also to store all sort of data. So in those cases, you generally need to rely on the message queue system. So your responsibility as a consumer or sender is there. You just need to send the data and you need to forget about. And the rest of the things are taken care by who are dependent upon that data and who needs to process that data. So that is a one of the another option is there which you can use. So now I will be explaining in the form of a flow. So for example, the option one which I explained, like I will be using the xConnect client API and the batch job, or you can say that the Sitecore scheduler to push the data. So let's say you are having the website and website user is coming to your website and you can fire the registration goal into your website when they will land to your registration form. So once they are entering the first name, last name, user ID, password, or you can say that all the PI related data, then you can push the data like first name, last name, and the user ID to the your IAM system, right? And they will internally send a mail to the user to do the all the authentication process. And rest of the data, PI data with respect to Sitecore, you can send to your Sitecore xConnect. So in those cases, generally you will generally create a virtual user and you will be creating a contact and you will be making it as a known user and you are setting the facet. So when all of you do this programming, then xConnect will push the data to the Sitecore xDB. And then if you are having a batch job, which will be consuming the xConnect namespace and running in the Sitecore xConnect context, and it will read all the data on the daily basis. I shown you that you are having the last modified time in the contact, right? So that can be utilized to get a updated contact data. And with the help of that, you can search the data. Yeah, you can get all the contact out of the xConnect and you can push that data after orchestration, whatever the format you wanted, or like a data messaging, and you can push to custom database, or you can directly push to the Power BI API also. So Power BI also providing you a one sort of a API which can be utilized by you to push the data to the reporting system. But that system is having a one limitation. Within a 10 minutes, if you are making a more than 300 calls to that API, it will stop for a 1 or 2 minutes. And after that, you will be able to make a call. So if you are having a lot of uh, data inputs to the xConnect, then you do not need to utilize those API. Then you need to see that how you can directly sync the xConnect DB, XDB to that system. Other approach is that I said that Azure Data Factory, where you can directly connect the OData API and you can do the data orchestration, data messaging, because you will be having a data in the raw format in the Azure Data Factory. You can also make a relationship with all the tables and you can create a flat table which is required by you, and you can push that database to a custom DB, or again you can push that database from the Azure Data Factory to the any sort of a API endpoint. You can push that also. And the third option is that you will directly integrate a xConnect client API with the Power BI data connector. And there also what will happen that you need to again create a data schema, because you are directly attaching a Power BI or data connector with the xConnect, then you need to create the data schema. Like for example, you are having the contact list, you are having the interaction facet. So you need to create a schema first, and then with the help of a sync process, you will be taking those data out of those tables, or you can say that the schema from the xConnect, and you need to push to the Power BI data set. And from there, you can create a reporting. And other option is that, so suppose when you are performing this operation where you are sending the data to the xConnect and the custom facets, so once data is pushed to the xConnect, for example, when you are creating any contact in the Sitecore xConnect, you will be first creating a add contact, right? So when you will make a add contact, it will push the data to the xDB, and it will generate a event for your xConnect service plugin pipeline. At that you can catch and push to your any of the data table or any storage where you wanted to store the data. Then when you will set the facets, there also you will be getting your contact ID plus whatever the facets you are trying to set. All that data you will be able to get in the pipeline. That is one of the other approach at a real time you can utilize to push data to any sort of a data storage, and later you can push to any reporting system. So that is another way, because you can do the data orchestration directly while you are getting the data from the xConnect service plugin. So you do not need to perform any extra steps there. Within the same steps, you can do the data orchestration also. And fifth is there, you will directly access the database and you will do all the manipulation, or you can directly sync database with the Power BI, and you can do all sort of integration or the reporting, whatever you want. Sixth option, which I was explaining you, that message queue based system. So here you are seeing that there will be a inbound traffic and the outbound traffic will be there. So you can get a content also, or any sort of content from the Kafka based message queue system, and you can push any analytics data or any sort of data you wanted to push to the backend system or other enterprise system, and you can utilize that at a real time itself. So that is a one more sort of integration which you can use, and generally that will be utilized by a big system or a larger system which is having a lots of user loads. So, and they wanted the data in the real time, then they will be using this type of message queue system. So that is also one of the way to create a reporting or any sort of analytics data or processing outside of the site code. And coming to the end of this section, that so whenever you are providing any solution to a client or presenting to anyone, so generally they are giving you the some sort of NFR, right? What is their expectation? Then you need to come up with more criteria or the requirement, and all options you need to present in the tabular format, or you can say that the data input, and you need to provide your rating why that specific system is better than the other. So because you are also providing all the option, but you also knowing that which one is the suitable for your client on the basis of their need. So you need to represent these options. Like I is presented a 6 option, right? So when I will be presenting to anyone, I will be providing my input why I am selecting a specific option to do the implementation. So these requirement, and if you are adding a data input, so these will be becoming your data points while presenting to the end user or any technical community if you are presenting in your organization. So you can take these requirements at a high level, and these generally present in all of the, if you are doing any sort of integration, so these are the generic thing you can utilize to present it. So it will be helpful for you for any sort of requirement. So now I'm moving to the one of the integration point which I did as a POC, that integration of a Sitecore xDB directly with the Power BI. So I will be just presenting you in the form of a screenshot. So what I did that, so So as I explained in the all the option, that from the all the 5 options, you will be able to push data to the Power BI, right? So there will be a raw data set will be there. So data set is nothing but first you need to create the data schema in the Power BI, and then you will be getting a data set out of that. Data set is nothing but a collection of tables. You will be getting it. So suppose if you are directly syncing the XDB, all data as a raw data, whatever I shown you in the uh, database screenshot, all data will be directly synced. So generally what we will do in the data set step 1, suppose you are having the databases in your Sitecore database, then there is a connectors are there in the Power BI which will sync the data, whatever the database you are present having, they will sync your data and they will pull all the data from the your database instance and they will store into the Power BI. And you can also specify a time at what time the data will be synced, right? So this is a automatic syncing process is there. So some people will do at a real time, but it's better to do in a off business hour to avoid any sort of database locking. And in the data flow orchestration level 1, what I will do that, suppose I am getting all the data, raw data from the Sitecore. So in the orchestration levels, step 1, what I will do, I will convert all my JSON data from there and I will convert that into a row. Because in the Power BI, you will be getting a out of the box option to convert all your data, whichever you are having in a JSON format, which I shown you right in the context facet. You can convert that into a row. So that things I will do here. And in the step 3, I will performing a more granular level orchestration. For example, I will be having some invalid data also in my system. Like if I am doing the testing, I will be inserting a test user also, or there are some users for which I don't need to display the data, or I need to do you can say that the joining of a more than one table and I need to create another table. So all those manipulation I will be doing in my step 3. And after that, I will be getting a refined data set, which is generally a presentable data. And that data set I will be using to create the reports. So once you will do all these things, and also there is a one more useful, you can say that the query Power BI is providing a DAX queries. So the functionality or a steps which you cannot perform from the out of the box functionality provided by the Power BI, you can utilize the DAX query to do that. So it's a very easy query. If you will go to the Power BI knowledge repository, you will be able to find a details there. So with the help of that also you can manipulate any data and you can join it and you can get a data out of all the data which you are present in the Power BI data set. So all you can do that. So once you will define that steps, because generally in the Power BI is a drag and drop type of thing. So if you will design all the steps which I have explained, so you will be getting this sort of view into that. So now I will be explaining that what is coming in the step 1. So once I will sync from my XDB database and I am also doing the sync from my web database also. Why? Because XDB database will give me the data which is collected at a Sitecore end, right? Sitecore xConnect. So Sitecore xConnect will be having the GUIDs of all the things. Like suppose if you are firing any goal, you will be having a GUID. You will be not having a name of that. So how I will get a name of that? I will be getting with the help of a items table from the WebDB. So that also I am syncing it. And so also versioning fields will be there because all the fields related to a specific item where the name and the other template related things are stored, all stored in the version field. So I will be doing the manipulation with the XDB as well as the WebDB and I will get the data. So while this is the screenshot in the XDB contact facet, right? This is the default data. When I will do the orchestration, some sort of, I will be having a percentile, right? So that I fetch from one of the table of the xDB. And also when I will be coming to the doing the more granular level orchestration, so I have built up this table which is providing me the contact ID, created date, first name, last name. As you saw earlier, that first name and last name are present in the contact facet. So I have made the relationship between a contact ID and taken the data out of the JSON, and I have created one new table into that, right? So that all these things you can do with the help of a drag and drop in the Power BI. And also I have added a condition called a is valid. So what is the meaning of this condition? Suppose I have added a condition in my column in a where clause that wherever the I will be having a test user test in the email, I will be treating those the contact email address as a invalid, right? So on the basis of that, I am setting a boolean true or false into that. So all these things you can do in the Power BI very easily. So, and if you need to do any sort of data manipulation, you can do that, and you can create a refine all these things in the step 3. And after doing this orchestration like till level 3, you are getting a data set in a human understandable format in the step 4, where you will be getting a data set. And with the help of that, I will be able to create this sort of a dashboard. So this visits and the page views. So the Sitecore will be give you the visits and the visits all only on the basis of a predefined date and time which you have selected. But with the help of a Power BI, you can set automatically it's a 1 year tour, and also you can do all these things. But you will be not able to get the visits and the page view both at the same time. And also suppose if you are having articles or any sort of data or any section in your website, right? Or suppose if you are doing the registration and you are asking for a user to select a role also, right? Those are nothing but a metadata. So this metadata which I have displaying here, this is a metadata which is attached with your articles. So suppose I am having these many metadata, and which type of the articles which belongs to yoga, right? And what is the frequency of accessing those metadata by the end user? This chart is displaying that. And same way, if you are doing the registration in your website and you need to get a data like if how many users have been registered in my system with the role of a developer, right? So that type of granular level reporting Sitecore will not provide you. But if you are having that data into your contact facets, then very easily you can build up the report because you already orchestrated the data in this where I am putting the department. Like, so suppose if I need to get a report like how many users have been registered within each department, I can easily get it from my data tables. And also how many users have views and how many web interaction and how many times say contact us goals have been fired and how many items are there which are accessing user are accessing that data I can easily get it. And this is a one of the table which I was showing you, right? So you can easily get a data in a tabular format and you can utilize this data to build up any sort of report. And also you can change the chart as per your need. But those functionality or a flexibility you will be not having in the Sitecore. And this is a one of the granular level view of the one of the user. So suppose if you want to see that if this user is there, right, how many times this user have interacted with your website. So that granular level things you will be not getting it, and how many times user have viewed how many pages this user have viewed, right? So you can also implement a click. Suppose if I will click on that, it will give you the tabular format of what are the pages and how many times these users have been accessed. And also these are the goals which have been fired by a user. So all these type of a granular level reporting you can only do with the any custom reporting system, right? So in those cases, you always need to rely on the options which I was explaining, right? And you can get data out of that. And then you can push to XDB or any database and you can get the data. So I have covered these and I have shown how we can get it. So, uh, so after that, I will be open for a Q&A if you guys are having any question, and I feel free to ask me.
Yeah, it has been a very long presentation, and I think I've really enjoyed the details. Out of this
Thanks.
slide number 12, which you showed the possible approaches,
Yes.
I'm eliminating the sixth item. Out of this 5, which is more efficient,
See,
and
I
which is
have, yeah, I
okay?
will tell you. See, I have tried all these 6 approaches. Okay. So out of all these 6, I have used the 5th one. Why the 5th one? Because when I tried with the first one, then we were getting a load issue and the performance issue. Then we dropped that because I was doing the POC. So then is Azure Data Factory, then the cost part and the people who are well versed in the Azure Data Factory, those things comes into the picture. Then we dropped that idea. And then after that, I picked up this 4th option, right? And I implemented everything. It was working perfectly. But when we tried the load on the website, then we then we saw that we were getting a 500 error in the code base. Then we checked and found that there is a limitation of the Power BI. So then we dropped that idea and we left because I able to find a one plugin, some sort of example, and I extended that and utilized in my code base. And this is the third option. This one is not because no one will disable the credentials or anything to expose to the outer world. So those required a lot of approval and also network team involvement is required. And bad job we haven't created because we thought that why we will put a effort in doing the data orchestration at a database level and writing a query. It's better to sync that data in the Power BI without any effort, right? And also you will do not need to run or write any code to access the data. You can directly create a replicate which table you need to database, which table you can directly sync that. And this Kafka was I did a long time back with some other organization where we were pushing a data to the other downstream system. There we have used this, but the currently where I have implemented, they are not having this Kafka, so we dropped that idea also. So we went with the database syncing, and also um, this I reconnected with the Sitecore also. What are the ways we can do that? Because we were clear about our requirement, what we wanted at the end. So they have told that Sitecore reporting system is not a system which you can utilize. So they
Yeah,
told that either you will use a Power BI or there is a one product created by the ex Sitecore team member who introduced a xConnect, right? I forget his name, right? So that reporting tool itself is being used by the Sitecore for all the dear Sitecore.com website. But that is a paid tool, so we can't
okay.
go with that. So we
It's
left
all
that
about
idea.
expenses, right? So number 2, I'm thinking it might be expensive, but it is more efficient. Do you agree?
Number 2 is a more efficient is that you will be relying on the OData
Yeah,
API, right? So you need to make a continuously push a load on your Sitecore xConnect system, right? So suppose you need to think through that is Azure Data Factory. I don't think so. Syncing at a real time is present or not, that I don't know because I haven't do that. But I sync a 1 or 2 times by in Azure Data Factory. But that is also required some sort of effort, right? In
yeah,
terms of
it
the
is
cost.
expensive also.
Yes, expensive also. You need to, I think, go with the some premium subscription, something like that. Then you can utilize that, and also the data storage will be costly for that. I think so.
Hmm.
So
Okay,
that's why
thank you.
we haven't go with that. That's why we selected a see for POC. Those type of things are fine, but If you wanted to utilize Azure function and you need to do all those stitching, that is also one way, but that will make your system complicated.
Agreed. Thank you very much.
Any other query or questions?
No, I think that covered everything.
Fine. So if you guys are having any of the query, right, so you can feel free to connect with me. So I will be currently have not published this code base related to the option where we were using this xConnect service plugin. So after some time, I will be able to publish a Sitecore 10 based version. So the version which is currently present, it is a Sitecore 9. So I have done a lot of change and out of that, and then I will be able to share.
Some great session, Amit.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Madhu.
There's a lot of possibilities that I didn't realize with xDB, the multiple approaches that you recommended and pros and cons.
Yeah, because
eye-opening.
in my current project and the earlier project also, why we were utilizing the Sitecore, like all we are having the business driven application that we can develop with the normal database itself. But our main motto was to capture the user footprint, how our application is been processing. So we are utilizing a lots of goals, page events. Even in our website, I don't know you have earlier checked or not. Sitecore is also providing a functionality, whatever the user have searched it in your website, right? That granular level details also you can capture it. So we are capturing that also, and we are identifying that what type of data user is interested in my website and what data they are coming and searching it. And on the basis of that, we are creating a new content for our website, the articles. So that analysis also we are doing it. As I shown the metadata, right? That metadata also we are, means business user are means seeing that which type of metadata related content user are accessing more, and they are promoting those things.
Okay.
One of the UIs are also path analyzer and everything, right?
Yes. So once you will
Okay.
push the data, then you can utilize the path analyzer to see that how the things. But I haven't used extensively. But I know that you can analyze if you are adding all the footprints of the user, then you can go to the path analyzer and see that how the content and the user are. You can say that performing in that. That is also helpful to check some sort of how your content is performing.
Perfect. Thank you.